It took 10 weeks, but TreVeyon Henderson is officially here. We'll talk about his dynasty value next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're breaking down all of the action from Week 10. We're going to talk some winners, some losers, and some stats that are going to drive Michael Fabiano absolutely crazy. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But Fabs, let's talk about some winners. And there was a pretty clear winner coming out of Week 10, and that's TreVeyon Henderson. It's been incredibly rough in the first 9 weeks of the season, but he finally had his breakout performance. What do you make of it?
Finally, TreVeyon has made a fantasy impact. Bad forever. Rock impersonation. And you know what, too, Marcus? If you watch the game, it didn't start off well.
No.
I'm like, oh, no, here we go again. And then he busted off that 55-yard touchdown run. And then you're off and running another 69-yard run in the second half, 150 total yards, 28 fantasy points. It's about time. Now, I still don't know that he will be the featured back when Rhamondre Stevenson returns. I don't know because Mike Vrabel, for the entirety of the first 8 games before he got hurt, stuck with Stevenson. So I don't think that we could just celebrate here and expect TreVeyon Henderson to be the featured back for the New England Patriots the rest of the season. But it certainly feels good to actually finally get a good game from him. As you mentioned, only took 10 weeks.
And honestly, I tweeted out at halftime that I think this was a big win for Henderson, not because the yardage was there yet, but he had 29 snaps in the first half and no other running back had more than 2.
Yeah.
Like they were finally leaning into him. Now it's taken a bunch of injuries for him to get to that point, but the fact that he was getting that much work and then the production came, I think it's a great sign. Now, obviously, we'll see what it looks like when Rhamondre comes back, but I think once these kind of breakout games happen, it's hard to put it back in the bottle a little bit here, Fabs. So we'll see what the value looks like in the second half of the year. But I do think this was the start of kind of his ascension.
They also have a short week coming up. So maybe the Patriots let Stevenson rest another week. And then they have kind of like a semi-bye, right? After playing on a Thursday night, and maybe they bring him back at some point after that. But I mean, listen, I was skeptical. I mean, 9 weeks of nothing. I guess you could understand my skepticism. But he put it all together in that game, and he got hurt for a second where his knee kind of got bent in the wrong direction. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this kid's finally having a good game, and now he's getting hurt. Thankfully, he was okay, returned to the game, no problems, and helped a lot of people win their matchup this week.
All right, let's talk about some other winners from Week 10. Who do you got?
The Woodman, Woody Marks. I was talking about him all last week. I said, if you need help, start Woody Marks. And now it looks like Nick Chubb, bye-bye, because Woody Marks started the game, 57 snaps, 16 touches, scored a touchdown over 16 fantasy points. Nick Chubb, 10 snaps, 6 touches. So, and that game was insane in the membrane, by the way. The fact that Houston came all the way back from that deficit in the fourth quarter, and that's something I'm going to talk about later on. Davis Mills, really. Anyways, Woody Marks looked very good, and that's the dude now. Woody Marks is somebody that I pretty much feel safe starting every single week moving forward.
How can you not feel comfortable? I mean, he's producing. He looks good. I think that's the thing for me. Like, he's so much more explosive than Nick Chubb. And this was our concern when Houston signed Nick Chubb. It's like, man, we're at the very tail end right now. And if Nick Chubb is getting more work over Woody Marks, that's not a great sign. But this is Woody Marks' backfield, not only for the short term, Fast, but man, at this point, we haven't heard anything about Joe Mixon at all. Like, it doesn't sound like he's coming back this year. And
or
if he's
ever.
And that's the thing. If he's not coming back this year, you're talking about somebody who was drafted in 2017, who's got a lot of wear and tear on his body. this just feels like his backfield moving forward. And honestly, he's a pretty good fit.
Yeah, he's got the Titans coming up next. So, I mean, that's a plus matchup. I'm not saying Woody Marks is going to be a league winner, but he is certainly going to be a player who you're going to be able to start with a little bit more confidence moving forward. Because remember, last week he didn't do anything.
No.
I don't even think he scored 3 points the previous week. But now Houston's finally using this kid. And this is the way, hopefully, it'll look moving forward, where he's the dude and Chubb is getting, scraps basically in the backfield.
Let's talk about Jameson Williams. 7 targets.
Buddy.
119 yards and a touchdown, with Dan Campbell calling the plays over there in Detroit. I still think it's really hard to trust Jameson Williams on a week-to-week basis, but it was nice to see him have one of these breakout performances.
I mean, last week I was telling you, trade for him. I was telling you, this is, maybe he's going to start to get hot right now. He played 60 snaps, 7 targets, 6 catches, 23.9 fantasy points. He scored 16 plus in 3 of his last 4 games. So I think it's getting easier to trust him. Yeah, it really is. And now, if you try to acquire him, it's not going to be buying low, which I think that kind of window is kind of closed now that he's put up that kind of total. And they've got Philly next week. So that ought to be a fun matchup. But Jameson Williams is looking like the guy that we saw last year, where he was more reliable, putting up good numbers. And Dan Campbell, do me a favor, keep calling the plays, because I like what I saw. Almost every Lion on the offensive side was fantastic. Jahmyr Gibbs had a bounce back game. Goff had 3 touchdown passes. Sam Laporte didn't have a huge game, but he was fine. Amon-Ra had every week with him, he's putting up great numbers. So I loved what I saw. And this is another example of why the Commanders defense is one you want to target every single week now moving forward. Miami next in another international game.
In Dan Quinn's last 31 games as a coach, his defenses have allowed 13 games of 30 or more points. We think of Dan Quinn as, this defensive genius, but a lot of times what his defenses do is they rack up turnovers against bad offenses, but against good offenses, they have no answers. So this is, anytime you get a functional offense, especially against this Washington defense that has so many injuries, I think you're right. This is a defense that we have to target. I want to talk about Jonathan Taylor really quickly, just because we'd be remiss if we didn't. 32 carries, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also added in 3 catches for 42 yards. Like, you needed those points. You absolutely didn't. That's 286 yards in this game. I mean, we know that he's the number 1 overall player in redraft leagues, but from a dynasty perspective, how many running backs are you ranking over him moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking diamond, I'm still going Bijan ahead of him. I'm still going Gibbs ahead of him, because those guys are younger. I mean, Ashton Genty, that one's worth a conversation.
He's only 26 though, so it's not like
I get it.
You're getting to the point where, I mean, yes, age 27 running backs, which he'll be next year, is always a little scary. But this isn't like Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry yet. Right. We're in the absolute prime.
There's not that many. There's not that many. I mean, I named 2 or 3 maybe. Yeah. So yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And some of the runs that he was making yesterday were just sick. I mean, he is a dude on a mission, and 30 touchdowns is not out of reach. Now, if the Colts have clinched everything in the playoffs, for example, and they don't play in the final week of the season, okay. But 30 touchdowns is possible. I mean, if you look at the pace, he has been the MVP in fantasy football, and I will give Marcus credit because he called it in the preseason, saying that he was going to be this or Saquon. JT has been that dude. And if you've got Jonathan Taylor, there's a good chance you're heading to the fantasy postseason.
Real quick on Bijan, because statistically he's averaging 5 yards per carry this year, which is a career high. He's more involved as a receiver than he has been in previous years, already at 43 receptions through 9 games, but 2 touchdowns, 135 carries. Like, he looked really good yesterday, but still a lot of Tyler Allgeier in this offense.
I am going to get to that in the final segment of the show, because is driving me nuts. But one other player I want to talk about is Cade Otton. And last week we'll mix in the Bucks here. Emeka Egbuka, I said, go and try and get him now after he's had 3 bad games in a row. Well, forget about that. If you wanted to get some sort of discount, it's not going to happen. He had a massive game. But Cade Otton had 12 targets. He was one of my favorite core tight end streamers this week. He had 9 catches for 82 yards, over 17 fantasy points. So Patriots are bad against tight ends. And Otton has now scored at least 10 points in 4 of his last 5 games. And so Mike Evans is out for indefinitely. Let's put it that way. I don't know when Chris Godwin's coming back. Guys, Cade Otton has become a very startable tight end 1. And he is, we saw this for a portion of last year where he had gone through a stretch where he was very good. But I mean, Cade Otton's a guy now that you're playing every single week. And he's not the sexiest name in the world, but the targets are there. And hell, even Tez Johnson, who was one of my favorite streaming options over at Sports Illustrated at wide receiver last week. I did get a few things right.
There you go.
He had a couple of touchdowns as well. So you're looking at the Bucks, and Egbuka obviously is the guy you're starting, but like Cade Otton, guys, you got to play this kid. Tez Johnson, as long as there's no Chris Godwin, Tez is going to be relevant in fantasy.
I love it. All right, let's talk about Garrett Wilson and some other Week 10 losers, because I don't know what you do with Garrett Wilson anymore. We'll discuss that and more next.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
This episode is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried behind hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's SAD, software as a service. And that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. And whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill in the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'd like to thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. We couldn't do it without all of you guys, so thank you very much. Fabs, let's talk about some of the biggest losers coming out of Week 10. And I'm looking right at Garrett Wilson, who had 0 catches, 0 yards on 3 targets, 13 yards in his last 2 starts combined. He's averaging 50 receiving yards per game this year. My question to you is he somebody that you just going to have to leave on your bench for the remainder of the year?
Well, I mean, that may have to be the case because he re-injured that knee yesterday. So you may not have a choice. And they've got a short week. They're playing the Patriots this week. So my guess is that there's no way Garrett Wilson's playing in week 11. And I mean, I don't want to completely kill the kid, because earlier in the season, he was doing just fine. He was doing fine, and then he got hurt, and then he re-injures the knee. And I'm going to talk about the Jets and their passing game a little bit later on in the program. But unfortunately, you're probably going to have to play the matchups with Garrett Wilson. A lot of people had him in their lineups this week, and I did too, because he's Garrett Wilson. And it's not even about him. I mean, Justin Fields, like, you and I went into this season knowing that Justin Fields is not a good passer. brother, I think he's regressed. He's awful. And I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know what the hell's going on, but it is awful. And again, I'm going to talk about that. I got a little history too. That is going to be very interesting for a lot of the listeners out there. But Garrett Wilson's still a young wide receiver who's very talented. And my guess is that Justin Fields will not be the quarterback for the Jets next year. They are going to have a high draft pick. They have a lot of draft capital after the trades that they made. And so you're going to have a new quarterback in Gang Green's offense next year. So I'm not panicking with Garrett Wilson, but I guess I am going to have to understand that this year, maybe the rest of the season is kind of going to be a lost season for him.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's no way I'm trusting. I have him in a couple dynasty leagues, and there's just no way that I'm putting him into my lineup. Even this week, I had guys like Rhamondre Robinson who are just clearly going to start over him for the foreseeable future. I think real quick on Justin Fields, he has regressed as a passer. But this is also what he did last year in Pittsburgh, where he got off to a hot start to start the year. And then each game that went on, defenses figured him out to the point where Mike Tomlin benched him for a pretty washed up Russell Wilson. It seems like this is kind of just the trajectory for Justin Fields. And now for Garrett Wilson, I don't know what you do because he's wide receiver 12 in dynasty leagues right now. He's going to be 26 this offseason, which is not old for a receiver by any stretch. We are kind of getting out of like the upside portion of their career. And you look at some of the names that are being drafted behind him, like at least in the month of October on Dynasty League football, Tetaro McMillan, Emeka Ibuke, Rashee Rice, Ladd McConkey, George Pickens. I'd just rather have all of those guys over Garrett Wilson and that Jet situation.
It's gotten ugly. I mean, there's no question about that. I still have faith in the kid, though. Like I said, he's put up some pretty good numbers with some pretty sort of average or worse quarterbacks. And unfortunately, he plays for the Jets. And my hope, I know the contract and everything. I kind of hope that at some point he ends up being able to play for a real franchise who actually has a good quarterback. I'm not giving up on him. I'm certainly not trading him in Dynasty because you're going to pay pennies on the dollar. You're going to get pennies on the dollar. That's not what you want right now.
All right. What about some other losers from week 10? Who do you got?
I hate to say this because you and I love James Cook, but dude, I mean, 10.7 points. What the hell, Buffalo? Against Miami, they stink. And Cook is, he's failed to score more than 13.5 points in 4 of his last 5 games. In 2 of those games, he had single digits.
I know.
And yesterday, he barely had double digits at just under 11 points. So I know as great as he is at times, he's been frustrating. And so I'm not saying that I'm ready to trade him or that I'm going to bench him. Obviously, that's stupid. But, James Cook has been very productive in the last year and a half. But when you look at the last month, it has not been that good at all. Moving forward, you're playing him. They've got Tampa Bay coming up. Tampa Bay just gave it up to TreVeyon Henderson. I think James Cook will turn it around. But not the best month for James Cook in fantasy.
And I want to talk about DK Metcalf because it hasn't been awful. He has 5 touchdowns this year. He's over 500 yards through 9 games. But it's been so inconsistent, Fabs. And I think that's the thing that's maddening about DK Metcalf is there's just no trust there. Last week against the Colts, 2 catches, 6 yards. This week against the Chargers, 3 catches, 35 yards on 7 targets. There's games where he looks awesome with Rodgers and he's making plays after the catch. But there's also a lot of these games of 3 catches for 50 yards, 2 catches for 6 yards, 3 catches for 32 yards, 3 catches for 20 yards. It's just hard to trust him more than a low-end wide receiver 2 at this point.
And he's a player that I had as a sit this week, when we talk about start him and sit him on Friday. And so I went into the season liking DK Metcalf, and I think at the end of the year, the numbers are going to be good. But, he scored 8 or fewer points in 3 of his last 4 games.
Yeah.
And that's breaking your back. Here's the good news. Bengals are coming up next, so he should get right. In fact, in a redraft, I may try to trade for him now because his value is low. But, yeah, he's hurt you. And, the targets are still there. He had 7 targets. Aaron Rodgers did not have a good game last night. The Steelers' offense was gross. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, the Chargers' offense was better, but it wasn't spectacular. I thought Justin Herbert would have a much better game. They lost to Rhamondre Stevenson in that game as well. Laddie Daddy's finally, now sort of back to being the dude, the best fantasy wide receiver in Los Angeles. But I was surprised that Herbert's numbers were not as good as I had projected, because Pittsburgh defense had not been great this season, but they stepped up last night.
Well, we should talk about this with the Chargers, because if you look at all of the numbers when Joe Alt is out of the lineup, this is one of the least effective passing games in the league. And I know they've got weapons, but they're just not going to get healthier on the offensive line. Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, both out for the season. Their interior offensive line is a disaster. So they've got to do a lot more short passes, and they've got to run the ball more. 31 carries in this game. I think outside of some of these spike weeks for Ladd, who had a 58-yard catch, I think guys like Quentin Johnston and Oronde Gadsden and Keenan Allen, they're all going to see their value decrease in the second half of the season.
Well, I will say this, and we don't know what Gadsden's status is moving forward, but if he's going to miss time, I like Quentin Johnson more. Quentin Johnson had double-digit targets last night.
Yeah,
I liked him going into the game. The targets just didn't turn into a big stat line. So I'm not really worried about Quentin Johnson, to be honest with you. I don't think he's going to be the same guy he was in the first month of the season, but I think he's going to still be a startable asset. They've got Jacksonville coming up. I mean, dude, I'm starting all my Chargers. I don't care, about the offensive line against Jacksonville.
We'll see.
Yeah, you're right.
That's just a really bad offensive line right now. That's really limiting what they can do.
Yep. No doubt about that. And Herbert was certainly a bit of a disappointment last night.
All right, let's talk about some stats, Fabs, that just drive you up a wall. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's not a better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late-game push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Podcast. 2 shows every single day, one in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Fab, I'm just going to let you go. I know you've got some stats here that have been just triggering you. Why don't you lean into it?
I want you to be involved here.
Okay.
And I want you to be involved here by saying what I say. Okay. Marcus Mosher, will now admit that JJ McCarthy is going to destroy the value of Justin Jefferson.
Hold on. I don't agree to this
yet. TJ Hawkinson for the rest of the season.
Okay, I don't agree to that yet, but go ahead. He was bad yesterday.
Bro. And the targets were there.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson had 12 targets. Jordan Addison had 11 targets. You know what JJ McCarthy's completion percentage was in that game yesterday?
Like 48%.
48%.
Yeah.
It was next to last among quarterbacks this week. JJ McCarthy stinks on the field.
Hey, Jalen Naylor, though,
can help you, brother. Justin Jefferson's a wide receiver 2 now. Jordan Addison, you can't start him. TJ Hawkinson, you can't start him. Why? Because of JJ McCarthy. Jalen Naylor combined scored more points than Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. Like, that's insane. So I'm sorry. I told you I've been down on McCarthy, and I don't love what he's doing to this offense. He completed 20 passes in that game yesterday. His completion percentage, as I said, 48%. That is crap. And if this is what's going to continue, then we are all in a lot of trouble if we have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. In fact, Hawkinson's getting cut in some redrafts right now.
Is there any chance that the Ravens defense is just really good? Because you remember, you look at their last 4 games, 17 points to the Rams, 16 points to the Bears, 6 points to the Dolphins, and then 19 points to Minnesota. Is there a chance that they just ran into a buzzsaw here a little bit?
No, the Ravens defense is getting better, but what was the the excuse the week before against Detroit.
They played okay against Detroit.
Didn't score double digits. Addison did nothing. And Jefferson, now you're hoping to get 14 or 15 points from him. And that's not what you drafted him to be.
Yeah.
You drafted him to be an 18, 19, 20 point per game player. And he isn't that anymore. It's because of JJ McCarthy. It's all his fault. Whether or not, and dude, when you target Justin Jefferson 12 times and he only has 4 catches, Marcus, that's not Justin Jefferson dropping balls. He's one of the best receivers in the league. When Jordan Addison's getting 11 targets and only 3 catches, it's not because Jordan Addison can't catch. It's because the targets are not good. The passes are off target. So listen, man, I tried like hell to trade away Jefferson and redraft and Jordan Addison. Nobody wanted him, and those guys were smart not to want him. Now I'm stuck with him, and I am not going anywhere in those leagues because I have to deal with JJ McCarthy wrecking the value of those 3 players. And there's nothing behind him at quarterback now either. Forget about it. If he gets hurt, you're screwed. I mean, there is nothing behind him. So, we're going into week 11 now. Justin Jefferson's on pace to have his worst season in fantasy.
Yeah.
So, and you know what's changed? The quarterback.
Yeah. Well, give him a little bit of time. We can give him missing grace here. Give me another stat. I don't want to belabor the point on McCarthy.
I need him now. You mentioned Tyler Allgeier. How in the hell does Tyler Allgeier get 5 red zone looks and Bijan gets none? Like, explain this to me. Bijan Robinson is arguably the best running back in the freaking league, and you're taking him off the field in red zone opportunities? You got to be kidding me. Bijan has scored fewer than 11 points in 2 of his last 3 games. Like, what in the Sam hell is going on there? Like, I know Allgeier is a good running back, but it's Bijan freaking Robinson. So, I mean, that really grinded my gears, and I have Bijan in some leagues, and he's killing me the last few weeks.
That's what it is, because I think Allgeier is actually a really good red zone runner. He scored 2 touchdowns. He's effective in that area. I just think this is fantasy managers with some sour grapes here.
No, it's not, because when you draft Bijan Robinson as the number 1 running back,
I know it's
you're not expecting him to lose red zone looks to anybody. Like, if Jerome Bettis in his prime was there, Bijan should get those touches. And so that drove me nuts. And then we'll stick with the backfield. Seattle will not let Ken Walker be Ken Walker. They won't.
No, it's so frustrating.
It drives
I'm with
me
you
nuts.
on this one.
Marcus, George Halani scored a touchdown yesterday, and Ken Walker didn't. Ken Walker hasn't scored a touchdown since like week 2. Right? 15 touches, 70 yards. He had 8 points. 8 points. Charbonnet, 14 touches, 83 yards, and a touchdown, 14.3 points. He's got 2 more red zone opportunities than Walker for the season. He's got 6 touchdowns. Walker's got 3, and Walker has not been in the end zone since September. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. That drove me nuts, and it's not going to change now. It's not going to change.
No.
They've got the Rams coming up next. The Rams defense is nasty good against running backs, and so I don't think you can start either one of those guys next week. Thank God there's only 2 teams on a bye. Let me get to the quarterbacks.
Well, hold on. One quick point on Kenneth Walker. I think now is a good time to trade for him in Dynasty because I don't think Seattle is going to re-sign him, not because he's not a good player. I think Kenneth Walker is going to want to go somewhere where he can get more touches. So I think you can get him at a discounted price now. And I think he looks really good. Like, he's playing some of the best football of his career. This just reminds me of a situation kind of like Javonte Williams last year in Denver, where you just need to change the scenery. And I think Walker next year on a new team could put up some huge numbers. So I'm actually buying now while the value continues to drop.
So moving on the quarterbacks. Did you look at the top 12 quarterbacks this week so far? I mean, I know we have a game tonight. Davis Mills is the QB1. Davis freaking Mills.
Get all those
Mills,
rushing yards.
QB1. Dylan Gabriel, QB8. Jacoby Brissett, QB9, garbage time. Tyler Shuck, QB11. Marcus Mariota, QB12. I like Mariota, by the way. I told you guys to stream him. They all scored more points than Drake May, Lamar Jackson, Daniel Jones, and Justin Herbert, and that's why fantasy football is what it is. Fantasy football, you're smashing your head against the wall every single week almost, and this was a crazy week. And one more thing before we go. I told you I was going to talk about the Jets. The Jets wide receivers had 2 catches for 7 yards yesterday. 2 catches for 7 yards. They had 169 yards of total offense, and 125 was Breece Hall, and they still won the game somehow. So I went back and looked historically. In 1974, which I was 1 year old at that point, and I wasn't a Cowboys fan just yet, a few more years, the Buffalo Bills didn't complete a single pass against the New York Jets, and they won 16-12. So that's bananas. But 2 catches for 7 yards? I mean, what in the God's name?
So I believe
I'm just lost for words at how bad that is, and they still won the game. It is shocking to me. And the Jets, forget about A.D. Mitchell or we talked about Garrett Wilson. They're in a Jet receiver, even Mason Taylor, who we like, and he's got a good matchup this week coming up against the Patriots. They give it up to tight ends. Can't trust any of them. None of them. There's one Jet you could start with any kind of confidence, and it's Breece Hall. And that's it. It shocks me that a team with a group of wide receivers can combine for 2 catches for 7 yards. Awful.
This was the 4th game this season that the Jets had negative net passing yards at halftime. They've only played 9 games. It's pretty gross right now. New York, you're going to have a new quarterback next year. That's a bold prediction.
Better have a new offensive coordinator and a whole bunch of other offensive coaches that are out of there too.
All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. He is Michael Fabiano. Follow him on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll see you right back here on Tuesday.